They won't talk about this at your regular doctor's office. Heck, most people don't even talk about it to their closest friends. But I'm going to, because someone needs to say it out loud, especially for men like you. If you've stopped masturbating in your later years, if that part of your life has faded into the background because you thought it didn't matter anymore, you may already be paying a price far higher than you realize. And no, I'm not talking about lust or fantasy or any of that locker room nonsense. I'm talking about function. Biology. Life. I'm Dr. James. I've been a men's health specialist for over 30 years, and I've sat across from thousands of men who came in thinking they were just getting older, when in reality, they were slowly disconnecting from the very thing that kept them strong, clear, and grounded, self-intimacy. You see, when you give up this part of yourself, it's not just your sex drive that goes quiet. It's your prostate, your sleep, your memory, your circulation, even your immune system. One man in his 60s told me, "Doc, I don't feel like me anymore. I didn't lose interest in life all at once. It just kind of faded." And that's exactly how it happens. Quietly. Slowly. You stop touching yourself, maybe because you feel silly, or ashamed, or too old. You stop feeling connected. Then you start waking up more tired. Your bladder gets weaker. Your thoughts get foggier. You get sick more often. And deep down, you begin to feel invisible, even to yourself. But here's what they never told you, your body still needs this. Self-intimacy isn't just about pleasure. It's about keeping the systems alive that fuel everything else in your body, your circulation, your hormones, your confidence, your sleep rhythms. It's your body's original tune-up. The reset button your nervous system still remembers. And when you take that away, especially in your later years, you're not growing old gracefully. You're depriving yourself of one of the last natural tools your body has to stay balanced, healthy, and fully alive. I've seen this play out more times than I can count. A man stops self-stimulating. A few months later, he's waking up 5 times a night to pee. Can't focus during the day. Starts skipping social events. Stops exercising. Loses interest in his hobbies. His doctor runs tests, everything looks fine. But inside, he's drifting further and further from himself. All because of something so simple, and so tragically overlooked. Let me say this as clearly as I can, this isn't about going back in time. It's about staying present. Staying connected. Staying in your body in a way that reminds your brain, your blood, your heart, you are still here. And here's the part that breaks my heart, most men never get this message. They quietly fade, believing this is just what aging feels like. But it's not. What if I told you that by reconnecting with yourself in the most natural way possible, you could actually slow down the fog, the fatigue, the frustrations you've been blaming on age? Because that's exactly what I've seen. And we're just getting started. In the next section, I'm going to show you what happens inside your prostate when you stop ejaculating regularly, and why that silent choice could be the start of bigger, more dangerous health problems. Stay with me. What I'm about to share could change the way you see yourself, and your health, from this day forward. I once had a patient, let's call him Paul. Paul was 72. Retired engineer. Sharp mind, still worked on old car engines in his garage. Ate well, walked daily, didn't drink much. From the outside, you'd say he was doing everything right. But he came to see me because he was waking up 4 or 5 times a night just to pee. And no matter how many times he went, he never felt fully relieved. That constant pressure. That nagging fullness. We ran all the usual labs, nothing alarming. PSA was slightly elevated, but not dangerous. Kidneys fine. Then I asked him one question he wasn't expecting. Paul, when's the last time you had any kind of sexual release? He looked down, gave a half shrug, and said, I figured I didn't need that part of life anymore. And that, right there, is the silent misunderstanding that's hurting more men than you can imagine. Because here's the truth, your prostate still needs you. The prostate isn't some lifeless gland sitting there like an old battery. It's alive, active, constantly producing fluid, expanding, contracting, responding to hormonal signals. And like any active system, it needs flow. When ejaculation stops, especially over a long period, the fluid your prostate produces doesn't just disappear. It accumulates, thickens, and begins to stagnate. Think of a pipe that never gets flushed. Over time, sediment builds. Pressure increases. The walls stiffen. Inflammation sets in. That's what's happening inside your body when you neglect this part of yourself. The result? Weaker urine stream. Frequent urges. That nagging pressure that won't go away. And in many cases, the slow onset of benign prostatic hyperplasia, BPH. By the time Paul came back for a follow-up 3 months later, he'd had a minor procedure done to relieve the obstruction. But it could have been avoided. Because here's the crazy part, ejaculation is one of the most natural ways to clear the prostate. No medication. No surgery. Just your body doing what it's designed to do. Studies have shown that men who ejaculate 21 times or more per month have a significantly lower risk of prostate cancer than those who don't. This isn't about obsession. It's not about fantasy. It's about function. Maintenance. Prevention. And let me say this, your prostate doesn't care how it happens. Whether it's through intercourse, self-stimulation, or a combination of both. What matters is that release occurs consistently enough to keep the system flowing. When men give up on that, they unknowingly put themselves on a path of silent deterioration. And it's not just discomfort, it's dignity. I've had patients cancel travel plans because they're afraid of being stuck on a plane with a weak bladder. Others who map out every restroom before they leave home. You shouldn't have to live like that. You were never meant to. And you don't need a pill or a device or some secret supplement to change it. Sometimes, all it takes is permission, to stop feeling ashamed, to stop thinking you've aged out of this, to stop ignoring what your body is quietly asking for. Because the moment you say yes to yourself again, you start moving the needle. You reduce pressure. You improve flow. You reclaim a piece of your life you didn't realize was slipping away. But what happens in the prostate, doesn't stay in the prostate. In the next part, I'll show you how this one decision, abandoning regular release, can reach far beyond your lower body, and begin clouding the one thing you rely on most every single day, your mind. Stick with me. What's next might explain more than any blood test ever could. Not long ago, a man in his late 60s, let's call him Richard, sat down in my office with a heavy look on his face. He wasn't there for pain. He wasn't there for sleep issues or prostate problems. He just looked at me and said, "Dr. James, I feel like I'm slipping. I forget things mid-sentence. I lose track of why I walked into a room. I used to be sharp. I used to be fast. Now I feel slow. Foggy." That hit me hard. Not because it was rare, but because I hear it all the time. And yes, some of it is aging. But not all of it. What most men don't realize is that sexual activity, especially self-stimulation, is directly tied to mental clarity. Not fantasy. Not lust. Function. Here's what's actually happening in your brain when you engage in self-pleasure. Your body releases a powerful mix of neurochemicals. Dopamine, which sharpens focus and motivation. Serotonin, which stabilizes mood. Oxytocin, which creates a sense of connection and peace. But here's what matters most, these chemicals don't just feel good. They help build and preserve neural pathways, the very roads your thoughts travel on. They stimulate blood flow to the brain, reduce cortisol, your stress hormone, and enhance memory and emotional regulation. When you stop stimulating your body, especially for long stretches of time, those natural brain protective chemical surges become rare, or disappear altogether. And over time, that mental fog, it thickens. I've had patients who used to run businesses, manage families, teach, lead teams, and they suddenly found themselves pausing mid-thought, losing track of conversations, avoiding social interaction because they didn't feel mentally on anymore. They thought they were losing their edge. Some even feared early signs of dementia. But in many cases, the root cause was chemical starvation, the brain missing the stimulation it once counted on to stay balanced and alert. Let me be clear, I'm not saying masturbation is a cure for Alzheimer's. But I am saying this. When you stop engaging with your body, your brain misses out on the hormonal and neurological nourishment it needs to thrive, especially as you age. And in men, there's another layer. When sexual activity declines, testosterone tends to dip faster. And testosterone isn't just about libido. It's tied to memory, decisiveness, drive, and the ability to feel mentally alive. Without it, you start drifting. Not just physically, but cognitively. I had one retired teacher who stopped self-touch years ago because, in his words, that chapter is done. But when he started again, just a few times a week, he came back and said, "Doc, I don't know how to explain it. I feel like I have my rhythm again. I remember where I put my keys. I'm finishing crossword puzzles like I used to." It wasn't magic. It was biology catching back up. If you've been feeling foggy, forgetful, unmotivated, ask yourself honestly. When was the last time your brain got that natural neurochemical reboot? Because yes, you can take supplements. Yes, you can try brain games. But sometimes the answer is simpler. Sometimes your brain just needs you, your body, your connection, your attention. And when you give that, you don't just think clearer. You start feeling again. In the next section, I'll show you what happens when emotions start to shut down, how numbness creeps in quietly, and why staying emotionally alive might depend on something far more personal than anyone ever told you. You don't want to miss this. He was in his early 70s. Widowed. Quiet man. Wore a neat flannel shirt, tucked in, like he always had somewhere to be, even though he didn't anymore. He didn't come to me for pain or infection. He didn't ask about testosterone or sleep. He sat down, looked me in the eye, and said, "Dr. James, I don't feel anything anymore. Not sadness. Not joy. Just, flat." He wasn't crying. He wasn't angry. Just still. And that stillness? It wasn't peace. It was emptiness. And he asked the same question I've heard from so many men. Is that normal for someone my age? Let me be blunt. No, it's not. Getting older does not mean turning emotionally numb. But when you stop engaging with your body, when you stop stimulating those parts of yourself that connect you to feeling, you begin to drift. And not just from your sexuality, but from your emotions. Masturbation is not just a physical act. It's an emotional reset. It's how the body releases tension, calms the nervous system, and regulates mood. When you climax, your brain releases oxytocin and endorphins, natural mood lifters. These aren't just feel-good chemicals. They're your body's way of saying, "You're okay. You're safe. Let go." But when that release disappears from your life, especially at a time when grief, loneliness, or change are already pressing in, you start to flatten out emotionally. You might stop laughing at things. Stop looking forward to the day. Stop connecting. And it doesn't always show up as classic depression. Sometimes it's irritability. Or disinterest. Or that constant low hum of, "What's the point?" I've had patients tell me they felt like they were watching their life from the outside, like a spectator in their own home. No big drama. Just fading. And the tragic part? Most of them never make the connection between that slow fade and the loss of self-intimacy. It happens gradually. You stop touching yourself. You start feeling distant. You assume it's just aging. But it's not. It's neglect. Not out of laziness, but out of a misunderstanding of what your body still needs. And I get it. Some men feel like they're too old for that now. Others feel guilt, shame, or embarrassment. But let me ask you this. Would you feel shame for stretching a tight muscle? For drinking water when you're dehydrated? Then why shame for touching your body in a way that brings relief, calm, and emotional balance? One man told me he hadn't masturbated in years. I guess I just forgot I could, he said. But once he started again, slowly, gently, with curiosity rather than pressure, something shifted. He smiled more. Started playing his guitar again. Called his grandkids more often. That wasn't about sex. That was about feeling alive again. When you stop connecting with your body, your emotional world begins to shut down. And that's not aging. That's your nervous system going offline. But here's the good news. You can turn it back on. Even if it's been months. Even if it's been years. Even if you're not sure you remember how. Because your body remembers. And it's waiting for you to come back. And when you do, the fog begins to lift. The flatness begins to fade. And you start to feel again. But there's another layer to this. Something even more essential than mood. Something that determines whether your body heals, or falls apart slowly in silence. Let's talk next about one of the most overlooked benefits of climax, and why losing it might be robbing you of the deep, healing sleep your body is desperately craving. You won't believe what happens inside your body, the moment you let go. He walked into my office looking like a man who hadn't slept in weeks. Skin pale. Eyes sunken. A slow, quiet heaviness in his step. "Doc," he said, "I fall asleep just fine. But around 2 a.m., it's like my brain hits a tripwire. I'm wide awake. Heart racing. Mind spinning. And then I just lie there. 4 hours. We ran the tests, everything looked normal. No apnea. No heart issues. No red flags. Then I asked a question he wasn't expecting. When's the last time you had a release? He looked away and muttered, "That part of me. I thought it was over." But that part of him, that natural, built-in release valve, was likely the one thing his body had been begging for. You see, sleep isn't just about being tired enough. It's a complex hormonal shift. A process that needs certain signals to fully kick in. And one of the most powerful natural triggers for deep, uninterrupted sleep is orgasm. Most people don't know this, but during climax, your body releases a potent cocktail of chemicals designed specifically to guide you into rest. Oxytocin, which calms the nervous system. Prolactin, which helps induce drowsiness. Endorphins, your body's natural painkillers. And most importantly, a sharp drop in cortisol, your stress hormone. That's the magic combination. It slows your breathing. Lowers your heart rate. Relaxes your muscles. It sends a loud, clear message to your entire body. It's time to rest now. But imagine going weeks, months, even years without that signal. That's what happens when men stop masturbating or abandon intimacy altogether later in life. It's not just about desire. It's about physiology. Without that release, the body loses one of its oldest tools for winding down. What fills the gap? Restlessness. Racing thoughts. Light, broken sleep. Some men turn to melatonin. Others to sleeping pills. But the underlying issue isn't chemistry from a bottle. It's the absence of a process your body once relied on to decompress. I had a patient in his late 60s who told me after just a week of returning to self-stimulation. I slept like I hadn't in 20 years. I forgot what real rest felt like. That's not a miracle. That's biology restored. And here's where it gets serious. Poor sleep doesn't just make you tired. It weakens your immune system. It fogs your thinking. It raises your blood pressure, triggers weight gain, and accelerates aging in almost every system of your body. I've seen men slowly shrink their lives, not because they were sick, but because they were just too tired to engage. No energy to go out. No clarity to enjoy a conversation. And all the while, no idea they were missing one simple, natural act that once gave their body peace. You might be surprised how many of your sleepless nights, your 2 a.m. wake-ups, your tossing and turning, trace back to something your body used to know how to do, and has quietly forgotten. Not because it's broken, but because you stopped giving it permission. And the good news is, you can bring that back. You can reset the rhythm. Not with pills. Not with apps. With something real. Simple. Yours. But as important as sleep is, there's a deeper layer that often goes unnoticed. Because when stimulation stops, it's not just your rest that suffers. It's the foundation of your strength, your balance, and your dignity. Let's talk next about a part of your body that's been working quietly for decades, supporting your bladder, your posture, your performance, and what happens when it starts to fade. Your pelvic floor. And trust me, you'll want to hear this. He was a retired firefighter. Big hands, deep voice, a quiet confidence that came from decades of carrying others through burning buildings. But when he sat down across from me, he looked unsure. "Dr. James," he said, "this is embarrassing, but something's not right down there. I leak a little when I laugh or cough. I feel pressure in my lower back. And when I stand too long, it's like my core starts giving out." What he described wasn't just aging. It was something far more specific, the slow weakening of the pelvic floor. And he's far from alone. The pelvic floor is a group of muscles that sit like a sling at the base of your pelvis. These muscles support your bladder, your bowels, and your sexual organs. They help you control your urination, maintain your posture, and even contribute to your ability to stand tall and steady. But here's the catch, these muscles don't just stay strong on their own. They respond to use. And one of the most effective, natural ways to activate and strengthen the pelvic floor is through sexual arousal and orgasm. During climax, your pelvic floor contracts rhythmically. That contraction isn't just a reaction, it's a workout. It boosts blood flow to your lower body. It improves nerve sensitivity and keeps your muscular system communicating with your brain. It keeps those tissues alive and active. But when you stop masturbating, those muscles go quiet. And like any muscles not used, they begin to atrophy. Circulation slows. Nerve signals dull. Tissue becomes less elastic. And before long, you start to notice little things that weren't there before. The slight dribble after you pee. That urgent need to find a bathroom, just in case. That subtle instability when you stand or walk for long periods. These aren't random. They're signals. And they're saying the foundation is weakening. And when that foundation starts to crumble, it affects everything above it. Your posture shifts. Your balance suffers. Your confidence takes a hit. I've seen strong, independent men start skipping events because they don't trust their bladder. I've seen others avoid long drives, flights, even laughter, just to prevent an accident. All because they didn't know that this part of their body still needed regular stimulation to stay functional. This isn't about ego. It's about preservation. You wouldn't let your arms or legs go without movement. So why would you let the most essential group of muscles for your independence silently fade away? And let's be honest, pads, adult briefs, just-in-case underwear. Those are band-aids. But the real solution starts deeper. One man told me, after beginning to reintroduce self-stimulation into his routine, my back pain eased up. I wasn't rushing to the bathroom. I felt grounded again. That's not a placebo. That's circulation returning. Muscles waking up. Confidence rebuilding. And yes, it all starts with you. The moment you give yourself permission to reconnect with your body, you begin to reclaim the foundation you didn't even know you'd lost. But here's what makes this even more vital: this process doesn't just protect your movement, your bladder, or your posture. It also affects your ability to fight illness. Because what happens inside your bloodstream after sexual release could be one of the most overlooked, most powerful natural immune boosters your body still remembers. Let's talk next about how regular release strengthens your immune system, and how letting it go could be leaving you wide open. It was early January when he came in, wrapped in a scarf, coughing into his elbow. Mid-60s. Always considered himself a tough guy. But this winter, it hit him hard. "I've had 3 colds in the last 2 months, Doc," he said. "Used to bounce back in a day or 2. Now everything lingers. I'm wiped out." We checked his labs. His diet was decent. He was sleeping okay. Nothing obvious jumped out. So I asked him something a little more personal. "Have you been sexually active at all? Even by yourself?" He gave a half smile and shook his head. "Nah, Dr. James. That ship sailed." But here's what I told him, and what most people, especially men over 60, don't realize. Sexual activity, including self-stimulation, can strengthen your immune system. Not metaphorically. Biologically. Clinically. Chemically. During sexual arousal and orgasm, your body releases a surge of protective compounds, one of the most important being immunoglobulin A, IgA. IgA is your first line of defense. It lines your airways and digestive tract. It's the reason some people can shake off viruses quickly while others end up in bed for days. And studies have shown that regular orgasm increases IgA levels significantly. That's not coincidence. That's your immune system getting a natural boost, without pills, without injections, without side effects. But that's just the start. During climax, your body also releases endorphins, your natural anti-inflammatories. These help reduce chronic inflammation, which is the root of so many age-related conditions. Arthritis, heart disease, brain fog, autoimmune flare-ups. And there's more. Oxytocin levels rise, which doesn't just relax you, it reduces cortisol, the stress hormone that, when elevated, weakens immune function over time. Think of orgasm as your body's internal upgrade. It calms what needs calming. It activates what needs defending. It tells your immune system, hey, stay alert. Stay ready. Now imagine going months, or years, without that internal spark. What do you think happens? Your defenses go quiet. Your system dulls. The furnace that used to flare up to burn off illness starts burning low. I've had men who were getting sick more often than usual, struggling to recover, always feeling off. They never connected the dots. But their bodies were trying to say something. We're missing something. One patient, after losing his wife, stopped all sexual activity for nearly 5 years. He thought he was just aging. But after gently reintroducing self-intimacy into his routine, twice a week, nothing extreme, he came back and told me, "Doc, I can't explain it. I'm sleeping better, I've got more energy, I haven't caught a thing this season. I feel like my body's cooperating again." That's the power of reconnection. It's not about sex for pleasure's sake. It's about giving your immune system what it needs to stay alert. To stay strong. To protect you like it used to. And here's the truth no one says out loud. Your immune system doesn't care how old you are. It only cares how well you take care of it. And self-stimulation? That's part of the care. But while the immune system protects you on the inside, there's another effect of giving up self-intimacy that cuts even deeper, right to the core of how you see yourself, and whether you still feel like the man you once were. Let's talk next about what happens when you stop connecting with your body altogether, and how that quiet disconnection can slowly erode your sense of identity. This one may hit closer than you expect. He was once a high school principal. The kind of man who used to walk into a room and own it, chest upright, voice strong, eyes sharp. But the man who sat across from me that day, he looked small. His shoulders were rounded. His eyes didn't quite meet mine. And when I asked how he was feeling, he sighed and said, "I don't really feel like I live in this body anymore. I feel like I'm just inhabiting it." That sentence hit me harder than any lab result ever could. Because I've heard it before, different words, same meaning. And it always comes from the same place, disconnection. Not from the world. Not from others. From themselves. Here's the truth no one talks about. When you stop touching your body, when you stop engaging with it intimately, regularly, on your own terms, you begin to lose a part of your identity. Not because you're weak. Not because you're aging. But because you've stopped feeling like you belong in your own skin. Self-stimulation isn't just about pleasure. It's about presence. It's your body's way of saying, "Hey, I'm still here. I still matter." Without that presence, things start to shift, slowly, quietly. You stop looking in the mirror. You stop noticing how your clothes fit. You stop caring whether you're dressed for comfort or for dignity. And it spreads. You eat whatever's easiest. You avoid movement. You shrug off the things that once made you feel good. Because somewhere deep down, a lie has taken root. Why bother? I had a woman in her early 70s tell me, "I just stopped feeling like a woman." Not because of illness. But because she stopped touching herself. And the less she touched herself, the more she disappeared. That word, disappeared, is the perfect description for what I see happening to so many older adults. Not just men. Not just women. Anyone who's forgotten that their body is still part of who they are. When you stop connecting physically, you start fading emotionally. You begin to exist instead of live. And here's what breaks my heart. Most people don't even realize it's happening. They blame it on age. On slowing down. On the idea that intimacy is only for the young. But it's not. It never was. You are not a shell. You are not a checklist of medications and appointments. You are still you, but only if you stay in touch with you. And yes, it can be awkward at first. You may feel silly. You may feel guilty. You may not even know where to begin. But the moment you reach for that connection again, even gently, even without expectation, something shifts. You reclaim ownership. You step back into your body. And suddenly, you're not just living out your days, you're inhabiting them again. One man told me, after a few weeks, I didn't just feel more energy. I felt like myself again. That's not about libido. That's about worth. That's about identity. And it's never too late to remember who you are. But to fully embrace that, you need to understand one more piece. The world can tell you to stay active, to eat right, to keep moving. But none of that sticks if you don't believe you're worth the effort. And that's where everything changes. In the next section, we're going to put it all together, how every system we've talked about, from your brain to your bladder, from your sleep to your sense of self, intersects in one powerful truth. This isn't about sex. It's about survival. And once you see that clearly, you'll never ignore this part of yourself again. Let me say something no one ever said to me when I was younger, and probably no one ever said to you either. Aging doesn't have to feel like disappearing. But the way most people approach it, that's exactly what happens. You get told to accept it, to slow down, to act your age. You hear it in the doctor's office, from your family, sometimes even from your own voice in your head. The message is clear, this part of your life is over. Let it go. But what they don't tell you is this. The moment you start believing that, you don't just lose function. You start losing yourself. Not overnight. Not dramatically. But slowly. Quietly. You begin letting go of the parts of your body that once brought you joy. You stop listening to the signals it's sending. You abandon rituals that once grounded you, centered you, reminded you that you're still alive in here. And little by little, your spark dims. You think the problem is your age. But most of the time, the real issue is disconnection. Not from others. From your own body. Think about it, everything we've talked about. The prostate issues. The brain fog. The lack of sleep. The weakened immune system. The emotional numbness. The leaks, the fatigue, the quiet sadness. These aren't just random symptoms of getting old. They're warnings. Your body isn't breaking down because you're aging. It's sending out a signal. Hey. I'm still here. But I need you to show up, too. And the solution isn't complicated. You don't need a new prescription. You don't need to join a gym or go on some extreme diet. You just need to start showing up for yourself again. By touching your body without guilt. By honoring your rhythms instead of ignoring them. By accepting that intimacy isn't something you grow out of, it's something you grow deeper into. One man told me, I thought aging meant giving up on that part of myself. Now I see it means coming back to it with more care. That's the shift. You don't need to chase the body you had at 25. But you do need to take care of the one you're in now, because it still wants to take care of you. And yes, this is personal. Because when you reclaim that part of yourself, your sexual self, your sensory self, you don't just protect your health. You reclaim your confidence. Your dignity. Your spark. You stop surviving. And you start living again. That's the truth about aging they never told you. It's not about fading. It's about returning. To your body. To your energy. To your identity. And it starts with one choice. To stop waiting for permission. To stop accepting disconnection as normal. To stop abandoning yourself. In the final section, I'll show you how to take all of this, everything we've uncovered, and put it into action. Because knowledge is power, but only if you do something with it. And the choice is yours. Are you ready to come back to yourself? To reclaim your body, not like it was, but exactly as it is right now? Then stay with me. This last part may be the most important thing you'll ever hear. I've sat across from hundreds of men who thought they were broken. Not because of a diagnosis. Not because of disease. But because they'd slowly stopped recognizing the person staring back at them in the mirror. They stopped feeling like themselves. Stopped trusting their body. Stopped reaching for connection, even with their own skin. And the truth is, it wasn't their age. It wasn't weakness. It was neglect, emotional neglect, physical neglect, and the slow erosion of self-worth that happens when you're told to just move on from being intimate. But let me tell you something no one else will. You don't age out of intimacy. You don't age out of touch. You don't age out of the right to feel alive in your body. I've watched men reclaim their strength, not through medication, not through machines, but by simply coming back to themselves. It starts small. You take 5 quiet minutes in the morning. You breathe. You check in. You place your hand on your chest or your belly and remind yourself, this body is still yours. You give yourself permission to touch yourself without shame. Not for fantasy. But for presence. Because when you stimulate your body, you wake up something ancient and vital inside you. Your blood moves. Your muscles respond. Your brain lights up. And your spirit. It remembers. You don't need anyone's approval to do this. You don't need to be in a relationship. You don't need to explain it to anyone. What you do need, is the willingness to show up for yourself again. To believe that you're worth the effort. To believe that this chapter of life is not about fading, it's about deepening. One man in his 80s told me, "I started this to fix my sleep. But what I didn't expect, was that I'd start smiling again. For no reason. Just because I felt human." That's the power of reclaiming intimacy. It's not a technique. It's not a trick. It's a return to ownership. To identity. To wholeness. And you don't have to get it perfect. You just have to start. Even one quiet moment a day. Even one small gesture of connection. It's not about performance. It's about presence. And it's never too late to come back to yourself. If this message spoke to you, even in a small way, don't keep it to yourself. There are so many men silently struggling, just like you. Feeling lost. Disconnected. Fading behind their age. Share this message with someone who might need it. Leave a comment below, your story might give another man the courage to reclaim his own. And if you believe in what we're doing, helping older men rediscover their strength, their clarity, their worth, consider supporting our work with a small donation. We're building a space where truth like this is spoken openly. Where dignity is restored. Where aging doesn't mean disappearing. Every contribution helps us reach more men. Helps us tell more truths. Helps more lives come back to life. Thank you for being here. For listening. For feeling. For remembering that you still matter. We're just getting started.